I became Prime Minister almost 3 years ago, immediately after the British people voted to leave the European Union. My aim was and is to deliver Brexit and help our country move beyond the division of the referendum and into a better future. I knew delivering Brexit was not going to be simple or straightforward. The result in 2016 was decisive, but it was close. The challenge of taking Brexit from the simplicity of the choice on the ballot paper to the complexity of resetting the country's relationship with 27 of its nearest neighbours was always going to be huge. While it has proved even harder than I anticipated, I continue to believe that the best way to make a success of Brexit is to negotiate a good exit deal with the EU as the basis of a new deep and special partnership for the future. That was my pitch to be leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister. That is what I set out in my Lancaster House speech, and that was what my party's election manifesto said in 2017. I've listened to concerns from across the political spectrum. I've done all I can to address them. And today I'm making a serious offer to MPs across Parliament, a new Brexit deal. As part of that deal, I will continue to make the case for the Conservative Party to be united behind a policy that can deliver Brexit. So as part of the new Brexit deal, we will place the government under a legal obligation to seek to conclude alternative arrangements by December 2020, so that we can avoid any need for the backstop coming into force. I've also listened to unionist concerns about the backstop, so the new Brexit deal goes further to address these. It will commit that, should the backstop come into force, the government will ensure that Great Britain will stay aligned with Northern Ireland. We will prohibit the proposal that a future government could split Northern Ireland off from the UK's customs territory. And we will deliver on commitments to Northern Ireland in the December 2017 joint report in full. We will implement paragraph 50 of the joint report in law. The Northern Ireland Assembly and Executive will have to give their consent on a cross-community basis for new regulations which are added to the backstop. And we will work with our confidence and supply partners on how these commitments should be entrenched in law. This new Brexit deal contains significant further changes to protect the economic and constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom and deliver Brexit. It is a bespoke solution that answers the unique concerns of all parts of the community in Northern Ireland. So the new Brexit deal will set out in law that the House of Commons will approve the UK's objectives for the negotiations on our future relationship with the EU, and they will approve the treaties governing that relationship before the government signs them. And while the talks with the opposition did not reach a comprehensive agreement, we did make significant progress in a number of areas, like on workers' rights. I'm absolutely committed to the UK continuing to lead the way on this issue, but I understand people want guarantees, and I'm happy to give them. So the new Brexit deal will offer new safeguards to ensure these standards are always met. We will introduce a new workers' rights bill to ensure UK workers enjoy rights that are every bit as good as or better than those provided for by EU rules. And we will discuss further amendments with trade unions and businesses. The new Brexit deal will also guarantee there will be no change in the level of environmental protection when we leave the EU. And we will establish a new independent Office of Environmental Protection to uphold the highest environmental standards and enforce compliance. The new Brexit deal will also place a legal duty on the government to seek as close to frictionless trade with the EU in goods as possible, subject to being outside the single market and ending freedom of movement. In order to deliver this, the UK will maintain common rules with the EU for goods and agri-foods products that are relevant to checks at the border. This will be particularly important for our manufacturing firms and trade unions, protecting thousands of jobs that depend on just-in-time supply chains. The most difficult area is the question of customs. At the heart of delivering Brexit lies a tension between the strength of our ambition to seize the new opportunities that Brexit presents and the need to protect the jobs and prosperity that are built on an interconnected relationship with other European economies. And to protect these, both the government and the opposition agree that we must have as close as possible to frictionless trade at the UK-EU border. And so the government will commit in law to let Parliament decide this issue and to reflect the outcome of this process in legislation. I've also listened carefully to those who've been arguing for a second referendum. I've made my own view on this clear on many times. I do not believe this is a route that we should take, because I think we should be implementing the result of the first referendum, not asking the British people to vote in a second one. But I recognise the genuine and sincere strength of feeling across the House on this important issue. The government will therefore include in the withdrawal agreement bill, at introduction, a requirement to vote on whether to hold a second referendum. And this must take place before the withdrawal agreement can be ratified. And if the House of Commons were to vote for a referendum, it would be requiring the government to make provisions for such a referendum, including legislation if it wanted to ratify the withdrawal agreement. So to those MPs who want a second referendum to confirm the deal, you need a deal and therefore a withdrawal agreement bill to make it happen. So let it have its second reading and then make your case to Parliament. Finally, we cannot expect MPs to vote on the same two documents they previously rejected, so we will seek changes to the political declaration to reflect this new deal. So our new Brexit deal makes a 10-point offer to everyone in Parliament who wants to deliver the result of the referendum. 1, the government will seek to conclude alternative arrangements to replace the backstop by December 2020 so that it never needs to be used. 2, a commitment that should the backstop come into force, the government will ensure that Great Britain will stay aligned with Northern Ireland. 3, the negotiating objectives and final treaties for our future relationship with the EU will have to be approved by MPs. 4, a new workers' rights bill that guarantees workers' rights will be no less favourable than in the EU. 5, there will be no change in the level of environmental protection when we leave the EU. 6, the UK will seek as close to frictionless trade in goods with the EU as possible, while outside the single market and ending free movement. 7, we will keep up to date with EU rules for goods and agri-food products that are relevant to checks at the border, protecting the thousands of jobs that depend on just-in-time supply chains. 8, the government will bring forward a customs compromise for MPs to decide on to break the deadlock. 9, there will be a vote for MPs on whether the deal should be subject to a referendum. And 10, there will be a legal duty to secure changes to the political declaration to reflect this new deal. All of these commitments will be guaranteed in law, so they will endure at least for this Parliament. The revised deal will deliver on the result of the referendum. And only by voting for the withdrawal agreement bill at second reading can MPs provide the vehicle Parliament needs to determine how we leave the EU. All the changes I've set out today have the simple aim of building support in Parliament to do that. I believe there is a majority to be won for a Brexit deal in the House of Commons. And by passing a deal, we can actually get Brexit done and move our country forwards. By reaching an agreement with our EU trading partners, we can keep tariff barriers down and goods flowing friction-free across borders. With a deal, we can keep our close security partnerships and keep working together to keep people safe. We can ensure that the challenge of the land border between Northern Ireland and Ireland is met in a way that works for people on both sides. This deal lays the groundwork and settles many of the core issues.